Have you ever found yourself on a 4-lane highway with a big truck to the right of you, another one just in front of you, and a third truck right behind you? Well, I would say that you found yourself in a very fragile situation should anything go wrong on the road. Well, today we're going to look at a book written by Nassim Taleb where he talks about the concept of being antifragile. And this is an idea, a way of thinking that I wish I had been exposed to years ago. This is Leadership Radio. Stay tuned. Well, hello, and welcome back to Leadership Radio. We appreciate you stopping by. Grab yourself a coffee and get ready for another excursion into leadership excellence today. And for those viewers that feel so inclined to give us a thumbs up, thank you for that as well. Today we're looking at the concept of being anti-fragile. And we'll delve more into that later. But to start with, I'd like to ask our viewers a few questions. As a leader, have you ever felt stress? Have you ever dreaded Monday mornings? Does your self-worth and well-being depend upon your leadership position working out? Have you ever felt that you were bearing all of the responsibility and yet had none of the authority? Do you find yourself retreating into your office and avoiding mingling with your team member? If you answer yes to any or some of these questions, chances are your leadership role is in a fragile state. So what's the difference between being fragile and being anti-fragile? Well, to describe it, let's take the example of a package, a breakable package, being sent in the mail. And written all over it is fragile, handle with care. Well, what's the best thing that could happen to that package? What's the maximum upside? Well, the best thing that can happen is that package will arrive unaffected by the events it sees along the way. The worst that can happen is that when you open the package, it'll be broken in 1,000 pieces. There's far greater downside than there is upside when you're fragile. When you're anti-fragile, it's just the opposite. The worst that can happen is likely you'll be very lightly affected by unexpected events. The best that can happen is unlimited. The growth, the opportunities that can be found when you're in an anti-fragile state. There's far greater upside. So now that we've established the fact that many leaders do feel fragile about their leadership, and that we've also discussed the differences between being fragile and being anti-fragile, let's spend the balance of our time looking at what might be some of the causes of a leader sensing that they're in a fragile state, and subsequently what might be some of the solutions that would create more anti-fragility for the leader. Let's have a consideration then about what might be some of the causes. Well, first of all, it can be something as simple as boxing yourself in financially. I think many leaders, and I was guilty of this as a young leader, we extend ourselves too far financially. And we feel like that car heading down the highway with a truck on every side of you. And if anyone speeds up or slows down or changes lanes, if there's any interruption or short-term reduction of income, it can lead to disaster. That's boxing yourself in. And that can be a major cause of feeling vulnerable or feeling fragile as a leader. It can also be something that other people try to download onto you. Years ago, when I was a manager with an insurance company of one of their branches, we had a managers meeting at the head office, and they went around the circle asking the various managers what their challenges were in meeting their objectives. And one of the fellows, who I'll just call John, he was a big strapping fellow from Regina, Saskatchewan, and I always looked at John as a very confident, almost overbearing type of guy. And when they asked him, "John, what are your issues?" he said, "Every time I get off the phone from my regional vice president, I feel like jumping out the window." Well, all of us looked at each other because everybody felt the same way. That head office representative was constantly downloading fragility, or the sense of being fragile, onto the managers in the field. Something else that I would call excessive pride can be a cause as well. There's a saying that I've come across that a person who is proud might as well have stamped all over them the saying, "Handle with care." Some leaders can't take any criticism. They can't take any direction or suggestions. They're so proud that they actually put themselves in a brittle, fragile state. We hope you enjoyed part one of our discussion of Antifragile by Nassim Taleb. And be sure to join us for part two coming soon, where we'll look at some of the solutions to being fragile and how a leader can become more anti-fragile. So, in the meantime, remember, leadership makes all the difference when it makes a difference in you. Thanks for stopping by, folks.